Hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. It is Basketball Rewind, and hopefully you can hear me, and hopefully this goes well. Let's go through it. I have not been able to record as often as I have usually done in the past, um, but let's catch up on it. The Raptors are now, I would say, they've lost 8 of their last 11 going into the Christmas break. They have a couple games remaining. We'll kind of do that preview later on, but we're going to kind of focus on what is to come and focus on that in just by going game by game. Most recent games, I think, were a bit of a shock to some people, and that would be the Celtics game and the Nets game. So right now, I'm going to be focusing on those games and kind of go from there. If you're joining me now, like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you enjoy this stuff, and let's get into it. So, first things first, let's go through the Celtics game. The Celtics score of the game was 112 to 96 in favor of the Celtics. There were times, if you were just box score watching, that this would be a bit of a back and forth game, but ultimately it was not really that much of a back and forth game. The Celtics largely had control over most of the game. There were periods of time in the third quarter where or leading into the third quarter and at the end of the second, where the Raptors had kind of caught up, as you can see here. But ultimately, it just that was it. Like once any sort of kind of adjustments were made from the Celtics in response to the Raptors' adjustment, um, that really was it, and that spelled the game. But let's still go through some of the box score together, and then I made kind of a post, and we kind of go through it together. Of course, Peyton Pritchard had his coming out party apparently, and Peyton Pritchard party is what we're going to call this. Um, and so, yeah, he had 33 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds, almost a triple double. It was Hugo Gonzalez that actually was really shocking because he kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, if those who know, those who know draft talk know. He was an interesting prospect, and at one point seen as a top 10 prospect coming into this past year's draft. But ultimately, I think it comes down to this: is that he fell to the Celtics in this year's draft, and you see a situation where this guy is, leading in box plus minus, which doesn't tell all the story. But really, he's basically having a double double on your team when it's like who he played for, kind of thing. For most people that aren't really seriously like fully paying attention to every single aspect of what's going on. Um, Jalen Brown was not present in this game. And obviously, they also missed a guy like Jason Tatum and others as well. So I mean, we know going into this year that they were not at full strength, but they've lacked so much in terms of their championship core. And for that reason, again, we are seeing the Raptors succumb to a team that was significantly better. Brandon Ingram and Sandro Mamu Kavachvili led all scores for the Raptors side. Obviously taking um, enough shots to get there to 24 apiece. So they played all right. I think Brandon Ingram, from an offensive standpoint, was solid. But I'm going to get into some of the challenges of it all, really, as we go through this. Colin Murray is starting to get more and more burn, which is both good and bad. I think it's a sign that Darko is kind of slowly trying to find answers with these different things. I think seeing someone like an Ochai Baji go 1 of 5 and still getting the nod to start is kind of a little bit of a bit of a challenge here. So um, you kind of start asking yourself. Sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat. Let me just take a look. I was wondering if there was problems. Welcome, by the way, everyone. And yes, oh boy, Pirtle's not playing, so that's going to be rough. Oh boy, that's okay. So yeah, we're gonna get into the hurdle of it all as well, and we see that um, the Raptors. I think in one of the past 2 games, I can't remember if it was this one or it might have actually been. I think it was in this one. I'll check in a second. That they were out rebounded on the offensive glass. The other team, I believe it is this one. We'll see in just a second. We will not see in this, but it's probably this one because it's a 55 to 37 rebounding advantage for the Celtics. The Celtics out rebounded the Raptors um, offensively 17 times, and that's just embarrassing. It's not even acceptable in like remotely at all. So I pulled up some of the different things. Um, so I was talking to a friend about this. Shout out to him. If you know, you know. But we were talking about Kyle Lowry, and I was saying like the differences between Kyle Lowry as a point guard and IQ. This is gonna kind of like lead into it. Is that when there's some games where Lowry would have a bad game. Say he could be having a bad game to the tune of a 1 for 12, but he would find other ways to contribute beyond just kind of like the assists in this offense, which are kind of a I won't want to say they're a fraudulent score to look at, but this offense is predicated on it's something that people were complaining about under the Nick Nurse era, and under this era, we're seeing that assists seem to be coming at a premium. Assists seem to be the focus of the offense, and when the assists are a focus of the offense to this degree, we're going to be running into a problem in which like, hey, okay, so quickly get 7 assists, but are those 7 assists really the same type of assist as, say, a Lowry assist? And it's probably not the fairest thing to compare him to Lowry, but yeah. And so when he goes 1 of 12 rather than having a more efficient night from the field, you're going to see the differences play out there from that standpoint. You're really going to not feel his presence. The other problem that you have is Scotty Barnes, and again, I'm going to pick on him just a little bit. Um, Actually, if I go right here, game charts is actually probably the best way to look at it. Is compared to when he is rolling, where he's able to get his offense downhill and in certain areas. He really focused his offense this time on the outside looking in rather than inside out. So if I go right around, I'm not seeing his name here, right there, you are going to see a lot of these outside shots. And if you actually watch the shots and watch the game go down, you see that he's a very much a rhythm player. And so he's doing these heat check shots sometimes. Sometimes he's wide open, sometimes it's in the corner three, but it's not going to be as successful as otherwise. Because frankly, it's just when he's not feeling it, he's not feeling it, and that's why you have to get him going, inside. Um, Samson in the yeah, I actually haven't watched the Samson podcast. I'm trying to watch those things after, if I even get the chance, because I'm not trying to color my own commentary, before I come to a conclusion. But it seems like we're coming to the same conclusion. Um, is this better? Can you hear me better now? Um, I'm thanks for yeah, I mean, I'm outside, so I'm trying not to yell, but I just want to make sure that you can actually hear me. So if it is better, let me know. Perfect. Okay, I just moved it. The mic was like way over there, so I just moved it closer. So yeah. Back to what I was saying is that yeah, the Raptors offense is predicated on this point 0.5 nonsense offense, whatever that means, and it's predicated on this idea that if you move the ball around a lot, you'll find the right person. The problem is that when you don't have the right person initiating the offense and directing the offense, it becomes we're passing without a purpose. So yes, the assists will be higher if you look at the assist number in general. These assists are much higher than the Nick Nurse era offense. However, it doesn't really matter because you're just passing it around aimlessly and you're not necessarily always taking care of the ball. So I made a little bit of a post focusing on the Raptors versus the Celtics. Um, and here we are right here. And essentially, yeah, so um, I don't know if this is going to be in order of what I want, but yeah, I'm going to go through this, and then we're going to get to the comments in the chat, of course, and just focus on that. So, again, this is a good example where it's like you're trying to generate offense early in the shot clock, this early in the first, and this is not really good, right? This is not a good. I'm going to kind of turn this down so it doesn't go above me, but um, this is not really good offense. This is stagnant. Nothing is happening here. You're in transition, and a few things are happening. Number one, you're the quote unquote the wings or the people that are supposed to be running out in transition and putting pressure on the defense, and that would be your wings here. So this looks like Ochai, I think, on first glance, and whoever it is on the far side. If I go back, they should be running. They should be sprinting. And it's actually Mamu that should be sprinting down. So Mamu's kind of doing his best, But then Ochai is kind of like a little bit looking back, and I don't know why he's looking back. He should be sprinting to the corner. He should be over here, right? Which would then in turn allow for a bigger, better driving lane for Scotty. Scotty looks at that and he's like, nah, I'm good. He passes it to Quickly, right? Quickly should be using him as a screen and then attacking him there, but he doesn't. Instead, he decides to jack a shot with 19 seconds on the clock. That is, if you look at where his feet are, pretty pretty darn close. I'm gonna try my best not to swear today. I usually don't swear though. Pretty darn close to the logo, and that's a waste of possession. It's early on, and you're not getting any sort of rhythm. Again, not all of these are going to have plays. I wanted to kind of get through this as quickly as possible, but you have a guy like IQ that's like playing defense a little bit in a one-on-one situation, getting lost in other situations, but he played decent on Derek White at times that game. But it wasn't Derek White that was the problem. It was Peyton Pritchard. Um, and even the offense early on was like did some you had some good possessions, like this one right here with CMB. So again, you have CMB, he sets a screen, rolls, IQ finally finds him. It's a second late, but that's fine. Finds him, boom, easy bucket. I don't know why we don't run this type of play with Scotty and IQ. That's a good question. I don't know, but hey, it is what it is. Um, nice. So let me just read these comments really quickly here. Also had an interesting point of when Ingram goes on a run to keep him. It's yes, it is 100. This is absolutely true. Um, IQ involves more. Yeah, yeah. There's you're gonna run into some problems, and this is just why I keep saying like, do you go get a center? I know everyone's clamoring for a center, or do you get fix the long term guard issue? And I would fix the long term guard issue because if you get a center, but you're not feeding the center, you're just clogging up more minutes for a guy, even if you're undersized for a guy like CMB, and you're still going to run into the same problem of the offense is at times going to look ugly while generating a lot of assists, which is kind of weird. And the funny thing is that if you look at the efficiency, I think I did a short about the Goldsberry efficiency rating. If you look at the updated version of that, the Raptors' offense is what is just tanked. Their defense is like middle of the road, but their offense overall is about 28th. So I mean, if you're not a tanking team, it might as well be the worst. I mean, we just lost to Brooklyn, who is a tanking team, purposefully tanking. Owner just came out saying, we are trying to lose, we are trying to keep our pick. And lo and behold, guess what? You sucked. You got slapped. You got slapped up in a way that's so embarrassing, and you're not even trying to tank. So when people are looking at like, oh, whatever, right? You're looking at guys like Scotty, where he's the leader on this team, and this team sometimes, when the going gets tough, they fold like a cheap suit. And the reason why they fold like a damn cheap suit is very simple. They're weak. They're soft, and you see it with the way that they play. And that's not just going to be fixed by one center or one person or one thing. So yeah, going back to this again, like yeah, like early on, we see you know we see Peyton Pritchard looking at the Raptors like food. First, it was Mamu Fairley. He kept looking for him in different possessions, different matchup hunting. I don't know why we don't matchup hunt enough. We do not, right? This is something that we do not matchup hunt enough. I don't know why we don't matchup hunt enough, but we don't. And I'm not saying that that's the only thing that you need to do. No, but you can do a bit more than just like aimlessly moving the ball around. I've seen Scotty at times do the opposite of matchup hunting, where he'll have a good matchup, he'll clear that out and go for the worst matchup. It's like, no, give me Aaron Gordon. It's like, no, you had the guy that you want on you. You want Jamal Murray covering you. You can take him into the post. Why make life harder for you? Yeah, so I'm gonna skip some of these, but yeah, this is one where it's like I understood the process. This is quickly kind of going in. Um, I'm gonna just zoom in here. So this is quickly going in, and again, he kind of stakes the pick and roll here, and CMB is doing his best to kind of wrestle with Keita. Really, the ball should be going to Mamu here. There isn't really trust as the offense kind of continues to sputter out, and that's part of the problem. Is that when there's no trust, there's no chemistry, you're running into a lot of problems, right? Um, and this is why it's like sometimes you're getting you're getting the ball to Ingram, where he's getting these individual hoops or buckets, right? This is not necessarily the best type of bucket that you want. First of all, when Ingram gets going, he starts getting into this mode where he's like, I'm gonna, to quote beyond, I'm gonna wear this dude like a bib, right? Like just taking shots with a dude hung all over him, draped all over him in his grill, right? And then it's like, really, the correct play should be, hey, Jordan Walsh is covering you. You have a double on you. This guy's not even looking, and this guy Queta will not be able to sprint out and cover right here, right? The correct shot is passing it to the guy who's shooting at least above. Last time I checked, it's been a minute, but he was shooting one of the best in the team. He should be shooting above 35%. This is a clean look. This is a good look. This is where the ball should be going right here. This is not a good shot, right? Instead, we're gonna lose the advantage, waste the possession. This is not point 0.5 offense, and yet people want to tell me that this is great and going to lead to playoff basketball. This is not great. This is terrible. Um, could be worse, of course. It's not the worst team in the league, sure, but it's not really great either. Um, so um, yeah, there's a couple other plays that I will pull up, but let me just get into the overall comments and stuff like that. But really quickly, like yeah, I don't know if anyone else had their thoughts of what was going on. I mean, when you have Hugo Gonzalez going and just basically like embarrassing you time and time and time again, that's not really what you want to see. Um, that's really not what you want to see. And there was a lot of built-up goodwill that occurred early on in the season, and you just start wondering. Just show the zip up, yeah, yeah. This is an official zip up. It's very comfy, by the way. Not that I'm trying to like I don't get paid by Raptors or anything like that, but yeah, it's a very comfy zip up. You know, Jaylen Brown with that stupid hair. Um, yeah, so it's one of these things where I watched the Celtics, and while I don't know why I rewatched the Celtics, by the way, um, maybe it was a bad decision, it was a business decision. Uh, at the same time, it's like I don't know if that's really the right decision that you want to be making, because that was not a fun game if you're a Raptors fan. If you're a basketball fan, you're looking at what the Celtics are doing to the Raptors. A lot of fun. If you're looking the other way, maybe not so fun. I think I've kind of avoided saying it, but Scotty's shooting 5 of 15. Yeah, I know some people are like, oh, it's only 2 nights. If he's a top 20, let's be generous here, where people are like, he's a top 20. Because I'm like, he is definitely not top 15. If he is a top 20 player, he needs to show up and be one of the two best players on the court night to night. If he's being compared to being better than Chris Bosh on a night to night basis as a Raptor is one of the two best guys on the court on a night to night basis. He cannot have stretches like this where he disappears. Does he have it in him? Absolutely, but he needs to show it. The Raptors as a team have not gotten to the free throw line nearly enough. I think that there were times where Scotty went like maybe twice in the Brooklyn Nets game or whatever. I'm not even looking at the score right now, but it's just not enough. And RJ Barrett helps from that perspective, but RJ Barrett can't solve all the offensive woes and problems that we have. So, um, yeah. Ingram has been there for the most part. Yeah. Like Ingram is now in a place where he's most nights going to have like eight out of 10 nights. He's going to have a decent game. He's going to show that he can kind of hang with the best, and he's going to give you a decent output. The problem is Scotty, when they are either clogging the paint or not letting him get into the spots that you want him to get into. That's where you're running into trouble, because when he's not able to get down low, he's less effective. He doesn't have the handle. There is one where I believe it was Hugo Gonzalez. He was driving. He just like stayed with him, stripped it. I think it got called for a foul. It wasn't not really a foul in my opinion, but either way, like he needs to get to a place where, okay, you're not the fastest guy, but you're supposed to be the cerebral player. So either they're going to have to purposefully dump him the ball inside and then have moving and cutting and stuff around him, which they've done a little bit, but not as much as they should, or they have to find other ways to succeed. It's not the easiest to make it succeed with him because of the limitations that he has, but that doesn't mean that you can't do a better job. And all I'm asking for is do a better job. So hey, that's it. Um, so yeah. But yeah, I think Ingram's been that for the most part. The game yesterday, that was ugly. It was very, very, very ugly. And so again, I go back to the IQ point where it's like when IQ's not having the best game, right? And IQ is struggling, and you're saying, well, what the heck? Why does it feel like IQ's touched the ball a lot, but the ball's not really moving, or these runs, as Will pointed out, are kind of feel different. Yeah, he is sometimes getting guys involved, but he's getting guys involved because he's running out of options early, whereas Ingram is over relying on his options to be able to make his own offense work. Um, and you really need someone with that better feel of the game to kind of get a consistent basis of like getting other guys involved, and I think it helps a lot. That's actually one thing I wanted to talk about. So Grady was 2 of 4, but the thing is it doesn't. There's times where he was driving and getting fouled, so it doesn't really paint his whole offensive picture of that game. He's aggressive, and the thing is compared to Jacoby, like Jacoby will be like ready as a standstill shooter and stuff like that. He can do more off the bounce, but he has no confidence. So, yeah, this is where it's like getting just move off of Ochai or cutting Ochai's minutes at the very bare minimum. I think is probably the way to go because you need to get these guys minutes. You need to know what they have, and frankly, you've seen. I think it was 401 or 41 that was talking yesterday, and he was like, "I've seen big flashes from Grady before," and we have. So as much as people want to clown Grady and be like, "Oh, yeah, the best shooter in the draft," I mean, at the end of the day, you can shoot, but if you're not getting the ball, if you're getting inconsistent minutes and all that, you're not getting helped out by the coaching staff or by management. So, I will cut him some slack there. I'm not saying it's been perfect. Everyone focuses on the defense, but he's offensively, he's giving it more than what other guys can have because he has the talent to do that, but he's not necessarily getting rewarded. There's stretches where he's not even touching the ball. Report today that Garland wants to. Well, you know what? NBA blood. His dad was a player, and this is a really good question. This leads into this question, which is, would I prefer Garland or Melo? um, really good question. I lean towards Garland. Now, some people would lean towards Melo. Melo, in theory, has a stronger upside just because of his physical traits and stats. At the end of the day, um, LaMelo is 6'8", and he can do all the things that he can do. And you could probably run him in similar sets that you can as Ingram and get him going. However, in terms of who's been healthier, who's, even though he's 6'1", who's had a better, in my opinion, has a better chance of doing the things that you want and not frustrating guys, it's probably going to be Garland. So I'm going to actually look up their crafted numbers really quickly, and just we can kind of compare and kind of look. I'm not going to talk about the deal frameworks, but I will say that RJ probably has more value. A, being out and seeing what's happening, being able to drive and have like a consistent level of like something that is giving a team an advantage being created. Um, so there's that. But I mean, I wouldn't argue with either because I mean I looked at Lamelo's contract and it's a lot better than what I thought actually. But I prefer Garland. That's just me. Two-time All Star. So yeah, let me just pull these things up, and I'm curious for one who you would have, or anyone else who wants to answer, because I think there's an argument for both. But yeah, only Pearl trade is a bonus. I think that there might be. I don't know, but I do not go for Sabonis. Sabonis is out right now for a while, but they traded for Sabonis. Sabonis is out for the next like month and a half, 2 months. I think they said that they're going to reevaluate him in a month, which is not a good sign. So if you're looking for someone to actually help your push, not to mention that, like, I mean, I remember having this shout out to the Warwick Report. I remember having an argument with him, and shout out to Zazu. I never thought I'd do that, but where I said one of the problems the Kings have is that in the playoffs, um, they get the paint clogged against them, and then they just dare Sabonis to shoot. This is even the Golden State Warriors with who he's way bigger than Draymond, but Draymond's just like, okay, just shoot. I'm going to treat you like myself. And he couldn't hit an 18-foot jumper. The offense stalled out, and there you go. The other thing is that we do he's better in like more dribble handoff type things. I don't know if I see the dribble handoff game with how we play. So from that standpoint, I think it's one of those things where it's not really. Um, it's just not an ideal offense or built. There's too many guys that need to thrive in the mid range, and then he can only thrive in an area that's not really great. He'd be better as a passer and better as an advantage creator than like Pirtle, but that's not really saying much. So yeah. And Will, are you saying no thanks to both Darius Garland and the other guy, or are you just saying no thanks to Lamelo? Claxton is interesting. I've heard of him as an idea before. I know who Claxton is, but I just don't think he's the right type of center that we need. I feel like that's just a very quick, fast, easy like um, hey, we did something, but this is maybe not the best type of guy. And for me, I think we have to think longer term for a center in terms of a solution. Okay, I pulled up the crafted. Here we go. This is Lamelo. Obviously, this year, both him and Darius Garland, the true shooting is not really going to be really super great. So just kind of bear with that for a second. Um, but overall, this is like it aggregates across a whole bunch of metrics, but he's still showing himself to be a 96th percentile offensive rated player. Um, and by comparison, you have another guy that's a 95th overall player. Now, both of them are bad defensively. Garland has had a year where he's been half decent defensively. I do think that if you're pairing him with bigger guards, which if you are, the problem is that to get Garland, you're probably letting go of RJ, and so you size down. If you're sizing down, you're not going to be as strong defensively in general. It's not always the case, but in general. But again, I'm not looking at like this is not a 1 day solution. This is a long term solution. So yeah, like I one thing that you'll see is the comparison of load. Like Garland takes a sizable amount of his offense when he's healthy and when he's there, but it's not what Lamelo is. Like Lamelo is like one of the top in terms of the offensive load and how much he creates for the Hornets when he's actually healthy and actually there. Um, so yeah, let's see what we'll say. I think that this team needs to add a center, but yeah, the problem is that the training for a center, like you can train for John Collins. John Collins isn't a center. He's going to help you in the aggregate, but he's not going to help you long term. There's a guy like maybe Zubac. Zubac will help you, um, but he's a lot harder to go for, and you're probably going to overpay and not see the returns that you want to see. Like he'll make you better, but you're still going to struggle with the offensive initiation, getting him the ball and whatnot. So yeah, so um, again, there's some things that you're going to obviously see. Defensive rebounding. Number one, Lamelo's bigger. Number two, he's actually a good rebounding guard. But number two, this guy right here is playing with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. So obviously he's not going to be relied upon. That's why it's like the stats are great, but the stats are not. I wouldn't hyper focus on the stats. Garland gets to the line more often though, and that's one thing that's interesting. So you'll see that here his free throw rate is actually much higher, and that's something that tends to translate more. And you need someone that can slow down the game, get to the line. Remember, Kyle Lowry was able to get to the line in a much easier way. The portability score, and I remember arguing with people about portability and Pascal versus OG, and with OG being a much more portable player. And the reason why, or sorry, with Pascal being a much more portable player. And the reason for that is that it's like it's a measure of how you play with other guys, and like if you were to play with other guys, how easy is it for them to fit with you? Garland has they both have like a 56th percentile portability, so it's kind of a wash there. Um, you know, Lamel is a little bit higher, the other one a little bit lower. You can see they're very similar in terms of their passer rating. There's an argument for both. There's an argument for both, but you need a serviceable. I'm not saying that you have to build around the guard, and to be honest, most teams, championship teams in general, are not built around guards. Definitely not small guards, but you need a serviceable guards. OKC, let's ignore that. Um, I should specify point guards. Stephen Curry, in my mind, he's not a point guard. He's like the ultimate shooting guard, but he sometimes plays point. He has point guard skills, but he's not a point guard. But that's a whole other discussion, philosophical discussion. Um, but yeah, but I think you can be successful with a small guard if you're not building around a small guard. And again, I don't think you build around an individual player. I wouldn't build around Scotty. I wouldn't build around any of these teams. I would build around a core. And the question to me is, if we're not going to respect the draft, can we at least respect building a core, setting your core up right now for the future? Exactly. So it's probably going to be Ochai as well to help people get off money, and then depending on who it is, you might. I mean, they may not be Ochai. If you need something more, you might put in a Grady, but I wouldn't be 100% certain that it's going to be Grady moving out. But we'll see. Um, and it also depends on the salaries that you're trying to take on or get rid of. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, these are really great points. I mean, the again, you need a serviceable point guard, right? You need a point guard who can actually play point guard, not a point guard who you are hoping for more every single night, and you're still paying $32 million. I'm not putting it on all on quickly, but everyone's trying to say though quickly could be really good if he basically doesn't play like a point guard, even though you're paying him to be your point guard. That is a problem. I won't say like that's unacceptable, but that's a problem. Um, it quickly made like $10 million, and hey, um, you know what? I wouldn't mind that. Um, Aside from like which first round or whatever, it's not the worst. I don't know if they would do it, but you get a longer term look at a guy like Anthony Black from the same draft, who in some ways was rumored to us. His game has kind of come along really nicely. He's that 6'8", like kind of point guardy type guy. Um, he played. I forget which team he played on, but he was Nick Smith's teammate at the time. It was basically those two, and it was a fun team, but they only went so far in the tournament. But yeah, Anthony Black is a fun player, and Goga Pataji would answer a lot of things. I'm actually writing down. I'll actually add that to my list because I'm making a running list of who to go for. Nick Richards is an interesting move, but like it's a move that you could have done like 6 months ago, and it doesn't really move the needle. You're just kind of moving like a 10th, 11th man for another 10th, 11th man that fits, I guess. But like Nick Richards would look good because he's a 7 footer and he can do 7 footery things. He's not gonna look good because he's a really, really a phenomenal player. He's a decent player. He's a decent bench guy. He would help you to have some depth, but it's not really moving the needle. And the problem is that when you have Pirtle, you're gonna over rely on Nick Richards, and then you're gonna be like, well, Nick Richards sucks. And it's like, well, Nick Richards shouldn't be starting. Your problem is that Pearl is not. Who should be starting and should be healthier is not. Um, if they went for a point guard like that trade, he's fine as a cheap option. Yeah, yeah, like I think Anthony Black would be a nice option because he's potentially gettable. Um, I know people like to talk about Jalen Suggs, but like Jalen Suggs isn't gettable. We're not going to get Jalen Suggs here. That's just not going to happen. And so, yeah, for that reason, it is what it is. But we'll see. Like right now, with how we've lost again 8 of the last 11. and I think we're in the month of December. We're 3-6, something like that. People thought we would be like 8-4 or whatever. We're not. You got a long ways to go to do that, and the schedule is now getting harder and harder going into January and beyond. You really have a situation where you kind of have to figure some of these things out pretty quickly and moving forward. If you don't, you're going to be in a lot of world of hurt. And so it's nice that in some ways that we've come back down to earth, because Bobby making moves now, it's going to be easier for him to make moves or pull triggers or whatever, rather than everything's flying high. It's like, okay, well, I want this to cook a little bit longer, right? I think you have a good solid sample size of what works, what doesn't work. Um, Obviously, having a center would help, but um, it might be at the cost of not sorting out your guard spot. But there's a lot of problems. You need to fix the balance on the roster. You also need to do some other things as well. So balance, better offensive initiation, better rebounding, and you need toughness, frankly. But I don't know if we're ready for toughness right now, and not fake toughness. Um, we need real toughness. Like we need guys where, Scotty's a good example. When Scotty's rolling and he wants to just like go at someone like it and just beast through guys, and he plays like that, and he just really commits to that, he can be incredible. At the same time, when he's not, and it's very you feel that. Um, yeah, they need the Congo line um, guy, the leader, the lead dancer of the Congo line is what they need with Temple to keep that going. So, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, um, yeah, like Bi would be interesting. I just don't know who would trade for Bi right now, especially if he had like 2 more years set. But the fact is that this summer he's going to have a player option for the following season, and so it's like if I'm trading for him, it's like I may not have him for like if he opts out, then do I lose? I have to double check, but like, do I lose my bird rights? Do I lose this? Like that might be tougher to retain a guy who's a $44 million player until you know whether or not he's going to opt in. You could always opt in and then sign him to a longer term deal too. So there's that. But that looming player option that Bobby loves to give kind of hurt them again. So yeah. Well, that it's the Duke guys, right? The Duke guys are doing. They'd only play. Okay, yeah. They'd only trade for Scotty if it's a top 10 player. Um, yeah, I agree with that. Like I think Scotty has the most value on the roster. Now, if you had a new GM, it might be different. You might be in a situation where they're less attached to Scotty and they're willing to trade him at like the draft to get into the top. But either way, like a Scotty Barnes trade package, if it even comes, would look very different than RJ Barrett and Bi. You'd be looking at a much heftier package. But yeah. But the team is going to struggle with size as these other teams are coming into your home. And that's the other thing. Some of this is like home games where they're just getting slapped up, right? Like yeah, you got to have some level of pride here, and it's tough, right? Because it's like when you're getting slapped up on your home floor, it's like what the heck is going on? You have to take some level of pride on it. So yeah. I agree with this. However, it's prob it. I prefer it to be quickly, just because um, if you're if you're getting one of the guards that I'm talking about, I'd rather not have quickly as your two guard because then you're getting smaller. Um, it would depend on if the guy is able to draw a double. So keep teasing this out. Let's talk about it really quickly, and then we'll kind of go into it on another time. There's a difference between creating a double and drawing a double. Okay, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, two perfect guys to talk about this. Brandon Ingram draws a double team. His presence when he has the ball, he is commanding a double team. He will be doubled, no matter what he does. Someone who can create a double team is like RJ Barrett, where he's driving, and because his drives are so consistent and he gets to his spots, as he's driving into the lane and knifing into the lane, he is going to draw a double team, or sorry, he is going to then create a double team. And so there's two different skill sets. The best guys can do both. Like the best guys in the league do both. They can both, consistently get to a spot or whatever. That creates a double team, but also their presence on the ball draws a double team. I think the secondary guys like Ingram are guys that are people who can just draw a double team. Ingram can get into the lane, but like he's not creating a double team in the same way because he doesn't always get to the lane, and he's always had a consistent thing with his play where he isn't leaning enough into, um, he's just not quite efficient enough at the rim. He's just not getting to the rim enough. He's just not getting paint touches enough, right? And as Will's pointing out, it's like, yeah, like it's why paint touches are always valued and in some ways undervalued, right? Um, you know, last year Scotty was not getting to the paint a lot. This year it's been a lot more purposeful and forceful within the flow of the offense in terms of how they're structuring the offense. And so, yeah, just something to kind of keep an eye out moving forward. But really, what you need ideally, say I would just use LaMelo as an example. LaMelo is someone who can draw a double team. I'm not sure if he creates a double team consistently. He hypothetically has the higher ceiling. So if you're doing 2K, you're doing the simulation, he'd be the higher end guy. But again, I'm not sure if it will work out or not. So um, injuries are going to always be a concern with any sort of trade. The other option is obviously, which no one likes to hear, and people will say, oh, it's always Raptor fans that are suggesting that you trade apart the team and stuff like that. But it's like, it's more like, no, I'm looking for solutions. Is you go the other way and you blow the team up. And you're like, this isn't working, and we get into the draft, and we get into the draft properly, and we properly rebuild. If we're going to call it a rebuild, let's call it a rebuild. That's a tougher thing to do. It's a tougher thing to sell. Um, it may or may not be the right thing to do, but yeah, I think leading towards that. I'm not saying you have to have like a full-on garage sale, but like starting to lean that way. It's like no one should be untouchable on this team, and if the right offer is there, the right offer is there. It's as simple as that. Like if you can get like a couple firsts and stuff like that and go into the draft, you shouldn't necessarily just say no and hang up the phone. That's all I'm saying. Right? You got to be open to the fact that this team is not cooking and working in the exact way that you want to, and kind of operate it accordingly. So yeah, you know what? If 4-1, um, I noticed that, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you're there. It's so, but we'll see, right? Like there's still time. The trade moratorium just ended, so I think that most guys, Pirtle could not be traded until January. By the way, I'll touch quickly on Anthony Davis. I can see them going for Anthony Davis, but it feels like a real desperate move, and it could work in the short term. But the problem is that Anthony Davis does not create his own offense, so you're running into the same problem of, okay, you got a big man. He does a lot defensively for you. But offensively, he's probably your best player, to be honest. But you're probably going to let Ingram cook. I mean, him and Ingram doing pick and roll and pick and pop would be a lot of fun. But it's like, um, it's a lot to trade for Anthony Davis. Um, Based on his age and stuff like that. Now, one option is you trade for Anthony Davis, assuming that, again, we're going to waste this year's draft, that you give this year's draft because you're like, okay, we want to be good. But hey, you have the downside risk of if he's injured next year, and if Ingram's injured, you keep on to your pick next year, and there you go. You have your pick next year. Um, there's some risk involved with that. I don't know if I like that risk. I don't know. I mean, there's always good players to have, but like next year is not supposed to be as strong of a draft. So I would like to see them value the strong drafts that they have also outwardly, publicly said that they value. So let's see. Looking around the league at up and coming champs, they built a core through the draft. Yeah. So we do cheat the process, and a lot of Raptor fans want to cheat the process, and it's fine to cheat the process. You don't have to wait forever. It's not about waiting forever, but you need to identify like, is this guy a dude or not, or do I have two guys and build around that. We've kind of piecemealed things together. And it's like even the whole building around Scotty, where people are like, oh, he's just like Luca. You just put shooters around him and it'll work. It doesn't work like that, right? Because he doesn't create advantages like Luka. He doesn't handle like Luka. He doesn't get to spots like Luka. He can't slow down his game like Luka. He doesn't have a Euro step like Luka. There's a lot of things that he does not. He is not Luka. Okay, sorry, but um, then you have to like reassess. It's like, okay, we saw the Scotty Barnes led offense last year. It was not great. So it's like, okay, how are you adjusting? What is the next step and moving from there? But I think this has been a little bit long. Just me, solo. I'm here for 45 minutes. So people, um, glad you joined. Gonna see more of this. Gonna talk about the Brooklyn Nets soon enough. We didn't even get to the Brooklyn Nets. So yeah. At some point, you got to say it's okay. It's not. Yeah, this is exactly it. It's not working. As I said, the puzzle pieces, this garage puzzle pieces missing, and you can't keep fitting a square peg into a round hole. You have to figure out what's working. So what are the solutions? And it's not just as easy as always just trade quickly or trade the guy that you don't like, and everyone else gets moved. So yeah, I think to cap this all off, if they're not successful this year, um, a lot of this goes at the top. It's not just Bobby, but it's also the top players, the guys who are making the most amount of money, your Scotty Barnes and your Ingram, because if they're not good enough, a lot of this falls on them because, yeah, and it would fall probably more on Scotty than on other guys. So whatever happens, you hope for the best. We'll see what happens. Folks, it is the holidays. Enjoy the holidays, whatever you are celebrating, and yeah, take care. Stay warm, stay well, and I'm out. Yeah. Oh, and like, comment, and subscribe.